Levon Aronian becomes the only player in history to win the World Cup for the second time in Tbilisi. Magnus Carlsen wins his first classical tournament in more than 14 months at the Isle of Man International, and both players have their love life thrust into the spotlight of the chess world this month because one of them put a ring on it. We talk Speed Chess Championship previews, best and worst moments, blunders, brilliancies, the whole lot. It's the show with more potential than Leonid Stein in the 1960s. It's ChessCenter. He's the closest thing the chess world has to a professional sports broadcaster, so we bring him on when it's time to make predictions. Robert Hess, you broke down the first round of the Speed Chess Championship for us, and you were pretty accurate. How do you see the second round going, starting with the matchup of MVL versus Sasha Grisha?
Well, Danny, we got to go with the lovable Frenchman. Not only does he have experience with giant bullet chess, but he's a very experienced on Chess.com as well. And he beat Grishuk in the World Cup in the rapid portion of their match. So I like MVL in that one by a score of +3.
All right, well, let's move on to the match that happens just a day later. We'll have some Russian on Russian action, the PG version, Robert. Don't get your mind over there. Tell us what you see going on here with Karyakin and Nepo facing off.
Well, this is definitely the most difficult one to predict. I know that Sergei Karyakin is a blitz legend. We just saw him dominate in St. Louis in the Grand Chess Tour. But Nepo was fierce in the bullet portion of that match. I still have Karyakin winning that one, probably squeaking by with a very close match.
All right, well, a few days later, we then have the American on American action. This time, not the spring break edition. Again, Robert, sorry to disappoint, but the Nakamura versus Caruana edition. What's going to happen here?
Well, I think Nakamura's going to blow him out of the water. He completely dominates Fabiano in quick chess. Back in St. Louis, Fabiano had some great positions. There was one game in particular with two dominating knights over two horrible bishops, and Hikaru won anyway. So I see Nakamura just completely blowing Caruana out of the water.
All right, well, the last match will then be on November 21st with the world champion taking on Wesley So, the third American still left in the Speed Chess Championship. What do you got here?
Well, Wesley So's hit a slump in 2017, and he's never beaten Magnus Carlsen in a classical game of chess. I know this is speed chess, but Magnus Carlsen will continue his great streak against Wesley So and dominate him in this match as well.
All right, well, there you have it. This is the bracket as it remains, everybody. You see, we have just broken down every matchup. We know all of you will be marking your calendars with the first match coming up on October 23rd. Robert, we will see you on November 21st, flying alongside me as my partner as we commentate on Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley So. Liren has had a great 2017, but perhaps no victory finer than this one over Gujrathi Vidit from the World Cup. Tell everybody what the Chinese played here.
Yeah, a really nice move. White now plays pawn to d5. And the reason this move is such a fantastic move is that this square is protected by 5 black pieces. But the real reason for this move is to open up the bishop on b2. So when black captures on d5, which he has to do, white can now play bishop takes f6. And this allows the queen entrance into h7. A very nasty idea, but still a beautiful move from Ding there.
Speaking of beautiful moves, Wu Hongxi had a few of them against the Norwegian during the World Cup. He sent the world champion packing, and this game here was the one that did it. Tell everybody the brilliant sacrifice he played.
Yeah, I mean, this was really nice. In this position, black played bishop takes h3. And this is the way you beat world champions. You have to show no fear and go straight for their king. And after pawn takes h3, the queen comes into the attack. White has to defend h2 with something like knight to f1, which he played. But the whole point of this attack is the ongoing pressure that black has. And this, should we say, gamble paid off, and Bu went on to win a great game.
He absolutely did. And speaking of great games, also again from the World Cup, Fedoseev had a brilliant win here as black over Maxim Rodstein. Tell everybody what he shocked the world with in this position.
Yeah, he's got a bit of an attack here because the white king is a little bit weak, but he now plays pawn to e3. And this allows the queen into f2, but it also sacrifices 2 pieces, not 1, but 2. White plays bishop takes d5. The queen does come into f2. Only 1 move for white, queen f1, and now king to h2. And we see the real point of this idea. Black's bishop comes into the attack, bishop to g5, with the idea of going bishop to f4, checkmate, but also giving up a piece with check. So bishop takes e6, the king moves, And in this position, the only way to stop checkmate is for white to give up the queen. So something like queen takes e3, but a position is very easily winning for black. I mean, I think the only person who might fluff this one up is Mr. Williams if I was playing a Mr. Feingold. But okay, Danny, let's not go there. I've still got some shakes about that one.
Looking back at the big news stories from September, Peter Doggers is here to tell us about one very long, very important event that was held in Tbilisi. Of course, we're talking about the World Cup.
Hi Danny, yeah, in a tournament that lasted for more than 3 weeks and started with 128 players, Levon Aronian eventually emerged as the winner. On his way to victory he beat the likes of Ho Yifan, Vasily Ivanchuk and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. In an epic semi-final, which was also a qualifier for the candidates, Aronian defeated the Frenchman in the ultimate Armageddon game, and thus he became the first player ever to win 2 World Cups, because 12 years ago in Khanty-Mansiysk he was also the winner. It was a great month for Aronian, who got married 3 days after the World Cup, but it was also a great year for Aronian so far, because before this event he also won the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, the Norway Chess and the Grenke Chess tournament. Meanwhile, Liren, who lost to Aronian in the final, also had a great tournament of course. By beating Wesley So in the semi-final, he became the first ever Chinese Grandmaster to qualify for the candidates.
There were really only 2 blunders that stood out to us from the last month of play. We're going to start with Vladimir Kramnik's big defeat against James Tarjan from the Chess.com Isle of Man International. You were there in person, Simon, and so you saw this tactic as it was happening. Tell everybody how Kramnik collapsed here.
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, a brilliant result for Tarjan. And in this position, black is certainly a bit better. And he plays now bishop to f3, trying to exchange the light squared bishops off, but simply forgetting that white can take on f3. And if Kramnik now continues with his normal idea, the idea he planned of queen takes f1, white just has bishop e2, trapping the queen. And it's really as simple as that. So white gained a very good position, a winning position. After this bishop takes f3 move, we can see a couple of things. Knight takes g3, and here bishop to f2, the last move where white's 2 bishops far outweigh black's rooks. So a very nice victory for Tarjan, but a big blunder from Kramnik there.
But speaking of big blunders, not sure if you knew this was going to be our last pick, but your biggest blunder was probably just the decision to show up against Ben Feingold. I'm going to take everybody through the last game of this match against Ben, where you started with Harry, then you played Eri, you're an A-pawn Eri, and then you just, I mean, I'm not sure if you even saw the final blunder coming. Ben knew you were on full tilt. He opens the center quickly. And did you even see that rook h2 was met by queen e5, blundering your rook? Or what was going through your head at this point?
You really want to know what's going through my head at this point? You probably don't, Danny. You probably don't. I realised I'd lost the match. And I didn't see queen e5. But I mean, my position is falling apart. Everything was falling apart. It felt like my life was falling apart. And this is probably, and I saw there's a big thread on Reddit about this, maybe one of the worst games a grandmaster's ever played. So I've done something with my life now, Danny. So yeah, not the best.
It's everybody's favorite segment. Let's take a look back at the best moments from the last month of chess. And Anna, you go first.
Starting at number 3 is Ding Liren's qualification to the candidates tournament. He is the first Chinese player to ever do so. Will he be the first Chinese world champion?
Well, he's got to win the candidates first before he could play Magnus Carlsen in a match, but we'll see. Speaking of Carlsen, he takes our number 2 spot, Anna, for winning the Chess.com Isle of Man International with a 2,900 performance, 7.5 out of 9, and it's his first classical tournament victory in 14 months.
But an even bigger victory goes to Levon Aronian for winning the FIDE World Cup and 2 days later getting married to Ariane Kaoli.
Back again to tell us how the Chess.com Isle of Man International finished with Carlsen journeying to the island is Peter Doggers.
Yeah, absolutely. Magnus came for the first time to Isle of Man. He saw a very strong field and he conquered with 7.5 out of 9. Carlsen won his first tournament in 14 months and was very happy with his play. It was convincing enough that a quick draw with Hikaru Nakamura in the final round secured him the £50,000 first prize on top of his starting fee. One storyline was that Carlsen came to Isle of Man only with his girlfriend. They were together at the informal opening ceremony, she visited the tournament later on, and she was also at the closing ceremony. Carlsen gave a very good speech there, I must say. And at the very end, after thanking a lot of people, including the sponsors, he especially thanked her, so he showed himself to be a true gentleman. The other story was about Vladimir Kramnik, who is in a fight with Fabiano Caruana and Wesley So for 2 rating spots to the candidates. Kramnik made things very difficult for himself by losing to Caruana in the first round, but then also to 65-year-old Jim Tarjan, and then he was held to a draw by Lawrence Trent. Kramnik has only a few weeks to make up for the lost ground.
When you're dropping games to Lawrence Trent, you know you're in trouble. We'll see if Kramnik can recover.
And finally, I'd like to thank Synne, who's over there, who has made this stay very enjoyable for me as well. So I hope to be back.
Magnus Carlsen giving credit where credit is due, Anna, but what is the full story of his relationship with Miss Larsen?
The world champion changed his relationship status on Facebook on the 14th of February this year and then went to the Chess.com Isle of Man International together with Synne. This is the first event where they traveled together, and Magnus also posted a selfie about it on his Instagram. Clearly shows that the achievement is thanks to Synne.
On to the worst things that happened in the chess world from the last month of play. We're going to give number 3 to the collective world's elite, Anna, because Magnus Carlsen, Vladimir Kramnik, and Hikaru Nakamura were all sent packing in round 3 of the World Cup, and they disappointed chess fans by not being in Tbilisi there at the end.
Another elite player that was knocked out is Vishy Anand. He lost to Anton Kovalyev, who gets our second place because of the Shortsgate controversy that was certainly not good for neither the player nor FIDE nor the chess community. No one gets their winning spot.
And speaking of things that weren't necessarily good for the chess community, we're going to give it to the social media, the world of chess social media, for going on a made-up witch hunt against the pairing system at the Isle of Man, accusing manipulation of Hou Yifan playing several female players in a row. It was fake news. Even Hou Yifan never said anything publicly, was not upset about it at all, and a good reminder to not assume there's a story where there really isn't one. Fabiano Caruana played Vladimir Kramnik in the first round of the Chess.com Isle of Man International. That's because of a random pairings lottery that I still don't know. Do people want this system or not, Mike?
Well, Danny, it made people tune in. They were all in the same score group after all. You know, the purists in the internet crowd would revile any new innovation under the sun, but sure made things more exciting, and just the luck of the draw is what created all that controversy. Sticking with Isle of Man, James Tarjan, after 30 years off to be a librarian, has come back strong. He beat 2 world champions in 1 tournament. What would his career ceiling have been if he hadn't quit to go into the media arts?
It's a great question, Mike. You know, he was super strong in his prime, and apparently he's super strong now. I could totally have seen him having a Gelfand, maybe a Vonchuk type career. Not quite world champion level, but hanging around the top 10, 20 for years and years. We're not leaving the Isle just yet, because I got one more hard-hitting question. Who's more to blame for the final round dud between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura?
A little bit of both. I mean, first of all, Hikaru for having a limited enough opening repertoire for Carlsen to have planned out this repetition. But of course, Carlsen's the one that really engineered it. Maybe Peter Heine is to blame. I think Peter Heine is the one that really got in Magnus's ear, told him to go for the draw. Sticking with Hikaru for a second, though, he just spoke at the Forbes 30 Under 30 conference. What do you think his public speaking rating is?
Maybe 2,300. Hikaru would probably rank himself higher, and I'll at least say I do enjoy listening to him more than some other top players in the world. But I got another question to bring you back to the real buzz on Chess.com, Mike. How have you not played a game of 4-player chess yet?
I mean, do you want my productivity to go down to 0? I've played too many games of Risk in my life to know that when the other 3 team up against you, it's no fun, and I'm kind of having some flashbacks there, Danny. And finally, a new documentary chronicles the Karpov-Korchnoi matches. How do you plan to watch those?
Obviously, getting my favorite flavors of randomly colored jellos and debating Kasparov-Putin theories with the rest of the room.